I never imagined that one day I would become the outsider in my own family, that I would sit alone at my kitchen table on Thanksgiving, staring at an empty chair, while my son and his wife posted photos of their perfectly decorated dinner table, surrounded by everyone, except me. This isn't how I thought my life would turn out. For years, I tried convincing myself that the little comments, the subtle looks, the passive-aggressive remarks from my daughter-in-law Madison weren't personal. I excused it as stress, personality differences, or just bad days. But this year, there were no excuses left. Madison didn't just make me feel unwelcome, she made it clear that I wasn't invited at all. Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow's episode is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. It started 3 days before Thanksgiving. I woke up early, like I always do, made my coffee, and sat down to check my phone. There was a message in the family group chat. It was from Madison. "Hi everyone. Just a quick note. Thanksgiving dinner this year will be for our immediate family only. We want to keep it small and intimate. Thanks for understanding. Immediate. Family." I stared at that phrase for a long time. My hands started trembling, not because of anger, at least not yet, but from confusion. I scrolled up, rereading it several times as if maybe I misunderstood. But no, it was clear. I waited for a follow-up message. Maybe my son, Ethan, would chime in and say, "Of course Mom is coming. She's immediate family." But no. Silence. Not a word from him. I typed a reply, then deleted it, then typed again. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I couldn't bring myself to send anything. I didn't want to sound desperate. I didn't want to beg for a seat at my own family's table. By that afternoon, the silence was suffocating. I tried calling Ethan. It rang, no answer. I texted, "Is this some kind of mistake?" He left it on read. Hours passed. Nothing. That night, I barely slept. I spent the next day trying to stay busy. Cleaned the house, did laundry, rearranged the pantry, anything to keep my mind occupied. But every quiet moment was filled with the echo of that message. Immediate. Family only. I checked Facebook. Madison had posted a photo of the centerpiece she was working on. Pumpkins, autumn leaves, candles. The caption read, "Can't wait for Thanksgiving with the people who truly matter." I felt my chest tighten. I looked through the comments. Her friends were leaving little hearts and "so cute," while her mother commented, "It's going to be perfect. Family time is the best." Family time. But I wasn't invited. By Thanksgiving morning, the knot in my stomach was unbearable. I walked around the house pretending like it was just another day. But the silence was deafening. No sounds of laughter, no smell of turkey in the oven, no kids running around. Nothing. Around 11 a.m., I checked my phone again. Still nothing. No messages, no calls. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the empty chair across from me, the same chair where Ethan used to sit as a little boy. Where we used to share pumpkin pie, laugh about silly things, and talk about life. But today, it stayed empty. I thought maybe, just maybe, they would change their minds. That someone would knock on the door and say, "Mom, what are you doing? Come on, let's go. You belong with us." But it never happened. Around noon, my phone vibrated. My heart jumped. For a second, I thought it was Ethan. But it wasn't. It was Madison, a Facebook post, a photo of the dinner table. Perfectly set. Turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, stuffing, green beans, cranberry sauce, all arranged perfectly. Her caption said, "Grateful for family, grateful for love, grateful for those who truly matter." In the picture were Ethan, Madison, her parents, her sister, her brother-in-law, and even Madison's distant cousin from out of town. Everyone was smiling, except me, because I wasn't there. I sat frozen. The wave of humiliation hit harder than anything I'd ever experienced. It was the kind of pain that's hard to put into words, the kind that sits heavy in your chest and makes it hard to breathe. It wasn't just the exclusion. It was the public display of it. The flaunting. The way they posted it online, knowing full well that I would see it, that everyone who knew me would see it. I scrolled through the comments. Beautiful family. So precious. This is what life's about. I felt something shift inside me, something deeper than sadness, deeper than disappointment, something colder. A realization that I had been blind for too long. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and opened the fridge. I hadn't bought anything for Thanksgiving. Why would I? I was supposed to be at Ethan's house. I made myself a grilled cheese sandwich. That was my Thanksgiving dinner. A grilled cheese sandwich. I sat at the kitchen table eating it slowly, staring at the clock, watching the minutes pass, wondering how it had come to this. Wondering how a woman who had sacrificed so much for her family could end up sitting alone on a day that's supposed to be about family. At some point, the tears came, quiet at first, then heavier. I cried until my chest hurt, until my eyes burned, until there was nothing left. I looked around my house, the photos on the wall, Ethan's baby pictures, pictures of him at his graduation, pictures of him on his wedding day, me standing next to him, smiling, holding his arm like I was proud, like I mattered. But looking at them now, it felt like looking at someone else's life. Like I was a guest in my own memories. For years, I tried to be the nice mother-in-law, the one who never interfered, who helped when needed, who never overstepped. I kept my mouth shut when Madison made little jabs, when she forgot my birthday one year, when she made comments like, "Oh, we're so busy with real family obligations." I let it slide. I didn't want to cause problems. But sitting there, eating my sandwich, watching them post their perfect little Thanksgiving online without me, something broke. I realized they didn't care. And maybe they never did. I stood up, walked over to the cabinet and pulled out the old file folder. The one with the house documents, the bank papers, the loan agreements. I flipped through them, my hands shaking. There it was. The loan from 12 years ago. The $75,000 I gave Ethan and Madison to start Ethan's business. The business they now owned. The business that paid for their big house, their 2 SUVs, and that fancy Thanksgiving dinner I wasn't invited to. And suddenly, something became very clear. I had spent years believing that if I was kind enough, helpful enough, supportive enough, they would love me. They would include me, but they didn't. They loved what I could give them, not me. As I stood there staring at the documents, something in me hardened, a kind of resolve I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't going to end with me crying over a grilled cheese sandwich. No, not this time. I stood in my living room for a long time, holding that file folder. My fingers traced the edges of the paper, like it was some fragile piece of my past. But it wasn't fragile. It was solid. It was real. It was proof. Proof of everything I had done for Ethan and Madison. Proof that I hadn't imagined the sacrifices. That I hadn't made up the years I spent bending over backwards to support them. I sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where I had eaten that grilled cheese sandwich just hours earlier, and laid everything out. The loan agreement for Ethan's business. The cashier's check copies. The emails confirming the transfers. The contract where Ethan and I agreed that once the business was profitable, he'd pay me back. Of course, that never happened. Remember that conversation like it was yesterday. Ethan and Madison had come over, looking desperate, panicked. Ethan had lost his job. Madison's part-time work wasn't enough to cover their mortgage, the car payments, the medical bills after. Their second child was born. They sat right there at this table, Ethan with his head in his hands, Madison pretending to cry. Though looking back now, I wonder how much of that was real. "Mom," Ethan said, "I've got this idea. I want to start my own business. I just need a little help, alone, just until things pick up." I didn't even hesitate. I told him, "Of course, whatever you need." Because that's what mothers do. It wasn't just the business. I remembered the down payment on their first house, $15,000 straight from my savings. The time Madison called me in tears because their water heater broke, and I wrote her a check that same afternoon. The babysitting, the groceries I brought over for years, the Christmas presents that filled their kids' tree when they didn't have the money. All of it. Every bit of it was right there in black and white in front of me. And yet, here I was, eating alone on Thanksgiving, while they posted online about how grateful they were for family. I looked around the house. It felt different now. For years, it was a place full of warmth, memories, laughter, family dinners, birthday parties. I remembered Ethan's 5th birthday when I baked him a Geechee dinosaur cake. I stayed up until 2 in the morning decorating it. He loved dinosaurs back then. He hugged me so tight when he saw it. I remembered how he used to call me the best mom in the world. I guess that didn't mean much anymore. A part of me wanted to believe this was all Madison's doing, that she was the mastermind behind it, that Ethan was just going along with it to keep the peace in his marriage. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized how naive that was. Ethan wasn't a child. He was a grown man, a father, a husband. And he chose this. He chose silence when Madison banned me from Thanksgiving. He chose not to answer my calls. He chose not to defend me. It wasn't the first time either. I could see that now. I thought back to the early days, right after Ethan married Madison. Things started small. Madison making comments like, "We're starting our own traditions now." Which was fine. I didn't mind. Every couple does that. But then came the subtle exclusions. "Oh, we're just doing something with Madison's family this year." Or, "The kids are tired. We won't stop by today." Then the bigger things. Not inviting me to their daughter's dance recital. Not telling me when their son had surgery until after it happened. Birthday parties where I found out only because someone else mentioned it. And every time, I let it go. I told myself, don't cause drama. Don't make Ethan choose. I thought, I was being the bigger person. I thought if I just waited it out, things would get better. But they didn't. They got worse. A few years ago, when Madison's mother was sick, I offered to help. I told Madison, "If you need anything, let me know." Her response was, "Oh, don't worry. My real family's got it covered." I remember standing there, stunned. I tried to laugh it off, like maybe she didn't mean it the way it sounded. But deep down, I knew she did. I also remembered when they decided to remodel their kitchen. Madison posted all over Facebook about how excited she was. Finally getting the kitchen I deserve. What she didn't post was how they asked me for $8,000 to help cover the unexpected costs, and I gave it to them. No contract, no agreement, just trust. I sat there now, realizing that for years, I had been nothing but a resource to them. Not a mother, not a grandmother, just a wallet, a babysitter, a convenience. I picked up my phone. I scrolled through my messages with Ethan. There weren't many. Most were from me. Birthday wishes. Hope the kids are doing well. Let me know if you need anything. Long paragraphs from me, one-word replies from him, and the last one, the one I sent after Madison's message in the group chat, still marked as read, no reply. I opened Facebook again, another post from Madison, a video this time. Everyone standing around the table, holding hands, Ethan leading the prayer. Lord, we are so thankful for this family, for the love we share, for the people in this room. I turned it off. I couldn't watch it. I stood up and paced the kitchen, my chest tight, my hands shaking. How had I let this happen? How had I allowed them to push me out of my own family? I wasn't a weak woman. I wasn't helpless. I had worked for everything I ever had. I raised Ethan as a single mom after his father walked out when he was 3. I worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table. I was there for every scraped knee, every school project, every parent-teacher conference. And now I was just disposable. I opened the drawer in the hallway where I kept old paperwork. I pulled out the documents for the house. This house, paid off. Mine, no mortgage. I pulled out the savings account statements, the retirement fund, the small investments. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't helpless either. I looked at the documents for the business loan. The business that Ethan now proudly called his whenever someone asked. I read through the contract, my signature, Ethan's signature, the clause that said, repayment upon profitability. Funny, they never brought that up once the business started making money. Never. I opened the photo album on the shelf. Pictures of Ethan growing up, birthday parties, school plays, Christmas mornings. I flipped to a photo of his wedding day. Madison's smile looked fake even back then. I remembered the moment. How she barely made eye contact with me that day. How she rushed through the family photos. How Ethan had whispered to me, "Just ignore her. Mom, she's stressed." Yeah, stressed. Sure. I closed the album and set it aside. For years, I had believed that if I stayed quiet, if I was helpful, if I didn't rock the boat, things would eventually get better. But now I understood something I should have realized. A long time ago, they were never going to change because they never thought they needed to, because I never made them. As I stood there, looking around my house, at the photos, the documents, the memories, I realized I was done waiting. I was done being quiet. I was done pretending. And the next time they saw me, they wouldn't be looking at the same woman they thought they could treat like an afterthought. No, not anymore. I woke up the next morning feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Not sadness, not regret, not even anger. Just clarity. A kind of cold, clear understanding of exactly where I stood in my own family. I made coffee like I always did, but I didn't sit at the table this time. I stood by the window, staring out, at the backyard, thinking. My mind replayed every little moment, every word, every slight I had ignored for the sake of keeping the peace. And it was right then that my phone buzzed. At first, I didn't even bother checking. I figured it was just another spam call or some pointless group chat notification. But something made me glance at it. It was a voicemail from Madison. I stared at the screen for a second, confused. She never left voicemails. If anything, she barely texted me. I wasn't even sure if she remembered that my number still existed. Curiosity got the better of me. I hit play. At first there was silence, then a burst of laughter. Not the kind you hear between friends, not the light, joyful kind. This was different, sharp, mean, cruel. Then her voice came through, loud and clear. Oh, she's pathetic. Honestly, did you see her little text? Like we didn't make it clear enough? My blood went cold. She's so desperate. Poor thing actually thinks she still matters. I told you, Ethan, you have to be firm. She's never gonna get it unless you draw the line. If we let her keep thinking she's part of this family, she'll just keep showing up, keep bothering us. I stood frozen. My hand gripped the phone so tight my knuckles went white. Then I heard Ethan's voice. Quiet. Soft. But it was him. There was no mistaking it. Yeah, I know. I hate dealing with it. Well, you better deal with it, Madison snapped. She's not our responsibility. We've done enough. She needs to stay in her lane. The voicemail cut off. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just stood there staring at my phone, listening to my own son agree, agree with his wife about how I was some kind of burden, an embarrassment, a problem they needed to handle. I replayed it, twice. Not because I hadn't heard it the first time, but because part of me couldn't believe it. I needed to be sure I wasn't making it up, that I wasn't twisting it in my head. But no, it was real. It was all real. They weren't just excluding me. They weren't just being thoughtless. This was intentional. This was deliberate. A choice to erase me. I sat down slowly, the weight of it sinking in like a rock tied to my chest. All the years, all the sacrifices, all the moments I bit my tongue. All the times I told myself, "It's just a misunderstanding." No, it wasn't. I wasn't family to them. I was an obligation, a nuisance. Something they tolerated when it benefited them and discarded the moment it didn't. My mind flashed back to every single time Madison had made me feel like an outsider. The comments, the forced smiles, the way she always found a reason to leave me out. And Ethan, my son, just stood by and let it happen. Over and over, I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to call them both and let every ounce of anger explode out of me. But instead, I sat there. I stared at the photo, on the wall. Ethan's graduation day. Him in his cap and gown, smiling so wide with his arm around me. Back when I was the one person he counted on. Back when it was just me and him against the world, and now look at us. I thought about deleting the voicemail, about pretending I never heard it, about swallowing it like I'd swallowed everything else for the past decade. But no, not this time. I pressed save. I wasn't going to forget. I wasn't going to pretend. Not anymore. I walked into the living room, pulled the file folder, back out and laid it on the coffee table again. I stared at the loan documents, the signed agreements, the emails confirming the transfers. Then I opened my laptop. I pulled up the business's website. Ethan's face smiled back at me from the About Us page. Family owned, built from the ground up, serving the community with pride. Family owned. Yeah, right. I clicked through their social media. Madison was all over it. Photos of their perfectly staged home, their vacations, their smiling kids, their amazing marriage. Post after post about family values and gratitude. It made me sick. They built this life on my back, on my money, on my time, and now they decided I wasn't good enough to be part of it. The anger wasn't hot anymore. It was cold, steady, focused. I opened my email. I found the old threads with the accountant, the paperwork where I had transferred funds to help launch the business, where I signed on as a silent partner, not legally removed, just forgotten. I flipped through my banking records. There it was. Payment after payment, support after support. Money for the down payment on their first house. Money for the car when Ethan lost his job. Money for the kitchen remodel. Tens of thousands of dollars over the years. I clicked open the group chat. The same one where Madison had sent the Thanksgiving message. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to write something right there, drop the truth like a bomb, post the voicemail, post the documents, let everyone see who they really were. But I stopped. Not yet. Not like that. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. I stood up, paced the kitchen, gripping my phone, scrolled through my contacts and called Susan, my oldest friend. She was one of the only people who'd seen what had been happening all these years, who always told me, "You're too nice. You let them walk all over you." When she picked up, I didn't even say hello. I just said, "Susan, you won't believe what I just heard." And I told her everything. Every word of the voicemail, every cruel laugh, every disgusting comment. Every time Ethan stayed silent, there was a long pause. Then Susan said, "I've been waiting for this day. What are you going to do?" I didn't answer right away. Because I wasn't sure. Part of me wanted revenge. Part of me wanted to make them feel the humiliation I felt. But more than anything, I wanted them to understand that I wasn't the fool they thought I was. That I saw them clearly now, that they couldn't treat me like trash and expect me to keep smiling. I hung up the phone and sat down again. My hands were steady now. I looked at the documents spread out on the table, and for the first time in a long time, I realized something. I held the power. Not them. Me. I sat at my kitchen table for hours, staring at the papers, the screenshots, the loan agreements, and the voicemail. I wasn't rushing. Not this time. Every decision I had made over the past 15 years had been guided by one thing: keeping the peace, being the good mother, staying quiet. Taking the high road, look where that got me. A Thanksgiving dinner alone, a voicemail calling me pathetic, a son who didn't even have the decency to defend his own mother. I wasn't interested in screaming matches. I wasn't interested in drama. I didn't want chaos. I wanted clarity. I wanted them to know exactly what they had done, and I wanted to make sure they understood, for the first time in their lives, that there were consequences for how they treated me. This wasn't going to be loud. It was going to be effective. I opened my laptop and logged into Facebook. I hadn't posted much in years. The occasional photo of my garden, the grandkids, back when I was allowed to see them, a few birthday messages, nothing dramatic, nothing confrontational, but today was going to be different. I opened a new post. I stared at the blinking cursor for a long time. Then I started typing. For a long time, I believed that if you loved your family enough, if you gave enough, supported enough, sacrificed enough, they would love you back, that you'd always have a place at their table, that blood meant something. I paused. My hands didn't shake. I wasn't crying. I felt steady. This Thanksgiving, I learned that isn't always true. I wasn't invited. I wasn't included. I sat alone while my son and his wife posted photos online of their dinner surrounded by family. I attached a screenshot of the group chat message, the one where Madison had written, "Thanksgiving dinner this year will be for our immediate family only." Then I kept typing. For years, I helped them. I gave them money when they were starting their business. I paid the down payment for their first home. I covered unexpected expenses when they needed help. All without ever asking for anything in return except love and respect. I added a photo of the loan agreement. Their signatures. My signature. But when I stopped being useful, when I became an inconvenience rather than an asset, they made it clear. I wasn't welcome. I wasn't family. I was just someone they used until they no longer needed me. I hovered over the voicemail audio file for a long time. I thought about posting it. Thought about letting everyone hear Madison's voice calling me pathetic, Ethan's silence, her saying she needs to stay in her lane. But no, not yet. Not this way. I closed the audio file. I don't share this for sympathy. I share it for anyone out there who's been told that family means unconditional love, only to realize that sometimes family is conditional. Conditional on how much you give, on how much you sacrifice, on how quiet you stay. I'm not staying quiet anymore. Then I hit post. I closed the laptop. I didn't sit there refreshing. I didn't pace the room waiting. I made myself a cup of coffee. I folded laundry. I went about my day. But deep down, I knew. I knew the second people saw it, really saw it, their perfect little image would start to crumble. By the time I checked back an hour later, the post had exploded. Dozens of comments, then hundreds, people from the neighborhood. From the church, old coworkers, distant relatives, friends I hadn't spoken to in years. I can't believe this. I'm so sorry this happened to you. This is disgusting. They should be ashamed. This makes me sick. You've always been the kindest person. I've seen this happen before. You deserved so much better. And then the private messages started. At first, they were from friends offering support. Then they were from people who knew Madison. This doesn't surprise me. She always acted like she was better than everyone. She's treated her own family horribly, too. You're not the only one. And then the real messages started. From Ethan, from Madison. The first one came from, "Madison, are you kidding me? Take that down. This is completely out of line." I didn't respond. Then Ethan, "Mom, what are you doing? You need to delete that. This isn't fair." I stared at his message. Fair? Fair? Was it fair when they sat around that Thanksgiving table without me? When they posted those photos, knowing I would see them? When they left me alone while they laughed? With Madison's family? I didn't reply. A few minutes later, "Mom, answer me, please." Then Madison again. "You're ruining our reputation. This is cruel. You're embarrassing yourself." I laughed. For years, they told me I was overreacting, that I was imagining things, that it was just misunderstandings, that I needed to stay in my lane. Now suddenly, my voice mattered. Now suddenly, I was a problem. Then came the phone call. Madison. I let it ring. Then Ethan. I let that one ring too. They called again, and again, and again. I finally turned my phone off. I wasn't going to listen to their apologies. Not now. Not like this. Not when they were only sorry because everyone else saw them for who they really were. By the end of the day, the post had nearly 1,000 comments, hundreds of shares. People who barely knew me were messaging to say they'd seen it and couldn't believe what they read. Neighbors. Parents from the school their kids attended. Customers from Ethan's business. Oh yes, his business. I checked the business's Facebook page. The reviews had started. I won't support a business that treats their own mother like this. Disgusted. Family matters. Clearly not to these people. Be careful who you trust. If they'll do this to their own family, imagine how they treat customers. Review after review. Comments on their photos. People tagging others. It was spreading. Didn't feel joy. I didn't feel guilt either. I felt done. I felt finished. It was like a weight lifting off me. Like I had been holding my breath for 15 years and was finally able to breathe. I didn't owe them anything. Not my silence. Not my forgiveness. Not my money. Nothing. Around 8 p.m., Susan called. "Have you seen it?" she asked, half laughing, half in disbelief. "People are furious. They're talking about it at the church, at the grocery store, at the gas station." "I saw," I said simply. She paused. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," I answered, and it surprised me how true it was. Yeah, I actually think I am. Because for the first time in a long, long time, I wasn't begging anyone to love me. I wasn't sitting quietly hoping someone would defend me. I wasn't hoping Ethan would change. I wasn't waiting for Madison to suddenly decide I was worthy. I was done. And now, it was their turn to sit with it. I woke up the next morning earlier than usual. I didn't even need to check my phone to know it would be flooded. I already knew. But I checked anyway. It was worse than I imagined. Dozens of missed calls, voicemails, text messages. Ethan, Madison, even Madison's sister, her mother, people I hadn't spoken to in years, and then messages from numbers I didn't even recognize. I opened the first one. "You're really going to destroy your own family over this? Unbelievable." Madison's sister, then another. "This isn't the way to solve things, Mom. Please, take the post down. We can talk." Ethan and another. "What you're doing is cruel. You're embarrassing yourself and your family." Madison's mother. I scrolled past them. I didn't respond. Not one word. Then came the voicemails. I hit play on the first. Ethan. His voice sounded frantic. Mom, you've made your point. Please. Please take it down. We can talk about this. You don't need to do this publicly. Just, please call me back. Then Madison. Hers was less frantic, colder, sharper. This isn't just affecting us. It's affecting the kids. Think about that. Think about what you're doing. Take the post down, now. Then another from Ethan. Hours later. Mom, customers are calling. People are canceling appointments. What are you doing? You're ruining my business, our lives. Please, stop this, please. I pressed delete, delete, delete. Not because I didn't care, because I wasn't going to let them pour their panic into my phone. They could sit with it. They could sit with the same silence I sat with on Thanksgiving. The same silence when Madison sent that message banning me from the dinner. The same silence when Ethan didn't pick up my calls. They knew what silence felt like now. I checked Facebook. The post was still there, still growing. Hundreds more comments overnight, more shares, messages from strangers. Then I opened the business page. It was chaos. Disgusting. Supporting your family should be non-negotiable. Won't be coming back. Here again. Ever. If you can treat your own mother like this, how do you treat your clients? Shame on you, Ethan and Madison. Total shame. Dozens of bad reviews. Angry comments under every photo. The latest post about thankful for our amazing customers had turned into a battlefield. People tagging others, calling out their behavior. Kept scrolling. Then I saw it. A post from one of Madison's friends, one of those women who used to post endless photos of brunches and vacations together. It's funny how people act like they're all about family, until it's inconvenient. Guess it was never about family after all. And the comments under that, well, they weren't kind. Apparently, word spread fast in Madison's little social circle. Some defended her, but most didn't. I made another cup of coffee, sat back down, just watched it unfold. For years, I thought the only power I had was being quiet, being agreeable, being helpful, the mom who didn't make waves, the mother-in-law who stayed out of the way. But the truth was, silence was never power. Silence was submission. And now that I'd broken it, I realized just how much they relied on it. Around noon, the doorbell rang. I didn't move. It rang again, then loud knocking, then a voice. Mom, open the door, please. Ethan. I stood in the hallway, staring at the door. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. Not this time. I didn't open it. More knocking. Mom, please. I just want to talk. I walked back to the kitchen, sat down. Let him knock. Let him sit there in the silence for once. Then I heard it. The car door slamming. Footsteps. More knocking. Madison. Her voice was sharper. Louder. Open the door. Right now. We are not doing this. This has gone too far. You're ruining everything. I almost laughed. I'm ruining everything was rich coming from her. More banging. Open this door. You don't get to do this to us. You don't get to humiliate us. I sat quietly. They stood there for nearly 10 minutes, shouting, knocking, demanding. Then it went quiet. A few moments later, the car engine started, tires screeched, and they were gone. My phone buzzed again. A message from Ethan. I'm serious. If you don't take this post down, there will be consequences. Consequences? I shook my head. I sent one reply. My first and only. You should have thought about consequences before you banned me from Thanksgiving, before you let Madison call me pathetic, before you stood there and said nothing. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. Hours later, Susan called again. You. Okay? Yeah, I said. I'm fine. You won't believe this, she said. I just came from the grocery store. Everyone is talking about it. The whole town knows. And get this. Someone said they saw Ethan at the shop taking down flyers for his business. Customers are canceling left and right. I said nothing. You sure you're okay? Yeah. You know what? I really am. I checked Facebook again. Later that night, Madison had deactivated her account. Ethan's business page was gone. I scrolled to Madison's sister's page. She'd posted a long passive-aggressive rant about how some people don't know when to keep family business private. The comments were brutal. People were done with their excuses. By evening, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're tearing your family apart. No name. No context. I didn't reply. I didn't care. For years, I was the one sitting in the corner. The one not invited. The one left out. The one watching from the outside while they played happy family without me. Not anymore. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel sorry. I felt free. This wasn't just about Thanksgiving. This wasn't about one dinner. This was about every single time they made me feel like less. Every time they treated me like a burden. Every time Ethan stood there and watched while Madison belittled me, ignored me, cut me out. This was about them learning that I wasn't someone they could throw away. Not anymore. The following days were quiet, at least on my end. I wasn't the one calling. I wasn't the one sending messages. I wasn't the one begging anyone to understand. But on their end, it was chaos. My phone kept lighting up with numbers I didn't recognize. Some were strangers trying to guilt me into silence. Others were friends of Ethan and Madison demanding I handle this privately. One message even read, "Good mothers don't destroy their own children's lives." I didn't answer a single one because I had already spent years handling it privately. Years swallowing disrespect. Years letting it slide. Years waiting for Ethan to be the son I raised instead of the man Madison shaped him into. I wasn't waiting anymore. I watched silently as their world collapsed. Quietly. Slowly. Exactly the way they deserved. It wasn't just the business anymore. People talked. People remembered. Old friends, old neighbors, people from the community. Everyone started remembering the little things. The times Madison treated the grocery store clerk like garbage. The way Ethan never showed up for his friends unless there was something in, it for him. The comments, the arrogance, the entitlement. It was like once the mask slipped, nobody could unsee it. By the third day, Ethan tried a different approach. A message. "Mom, I know you're hurt. I know you're upset. But this isn't the way. You've made your point. You're right, okay? You're right. We should have included you. We should have handled things differently. But please, take it down. The business is tanking. We're losing everything." I stared at the screen. It was the first time in years he said I was right. Not when I helped pay for their first house. Not when I covered the cost of the new HVAC system. Not when I babysat their kids for free so they could go on vacations I wasn't invited to. Not when I loaned them $75,000 to start that business. But now that the consequences showed up, suddenly, I was right. I didn't respond. Another message came. "Please, Mom. The kids don't understand what's going on. They're confused. They keep asking why Grandma is mad. Madison's freaking out. She hasn't left the house in days." I shook my head. The same kids they kept me away from. The same kids I barely saw anymore except when they needed free childcare. Now suddenly, they remembered I existed. A few hours later, the phone rang again. This time, it wasn't Ethan. It was Madison. Her voice wasn't sharp anymore. It wasn't condescending. It wasn't smug. It was controlled, flat, like someone who realized they'd pushed too far. "Look," she started, "I know you're upset. I get it. I really do. But this is hurting more than just me and Ethan. The kids are suffering. You've made your point. You've embarrassed us enough. I said nothing. Honestly, she continued, if this is about the money, fine. We'll pay you back. We'll work something out. But take it down. I almost laughed. After all these years, now it was about the money? I didn't say a word. She sighed. We can't fix this if you won't talk to us. I hung up. They weren't sorry. They were sorry they got caught. 2 days later, I checked the business records. I knew something they didn't remember. When Ethan set up the business, I wasn't just a loan. I was listed as a partner. A silent one, but still, legally, an owner. I'd kept the paperwork, the signatures, the emails. The accountant's confirmation, they'd forgotten. I hadn't. I scheduled a meeting with a lawyer. We went over everything. The lawyer reviewed the documents, nodded, and said, well, you have 2 options. You can force a sale of the business, or you can demand they buy out your share. I sat quietly for a moment. What happens if they can't buy me out? The lawyer smiled. Then the business gets liquidated. I nodded. Perfect. By the next afternoon, the lawyer had sent the official demand. Ethan called within minutes. Mom, what the hell is this? His voice wasn't sad anymore. It wasn't apologetic. It was angry. The same tone he used to use when Madison complained about me behind my back. That entitled, irritated tone like I was inconveniencing him by existing. You know exactly what it is, I said calmly. You're serious? You're actually going through with this? You're gonna destroy us? I'm not destroying anything, I said. I'm collecting what's owed to me. This is insane, he snapped. This is your family. No, I corrected him. Family doesn't treat people the way you and Madison treated me. Silence. You're going to regret this, he said finally. I already regret ever helping you in the first place, I replied, and I hung up. By the end of the week, the business was closed. They couldn't afford to buy me out. The bank foreclosed on their house within a month. Their perfect little world, the one built on my generosity, my silence, my willingness to be. Walked all over, was gone. I didn't gloat, I didn't celebrate. I simply moved on. I deleted the Facebook post, not because I was pressured, not because they deserved it, simply because it had done its job. It told the truth. It made them face what they'd done, and it reminded me of something I should have realized years ago. I was never the problem. A few weeks later, I packed a few bags, sold my house, bought a small cottage near the beach, a place with big windows, a small garden, and neighbors who smiled when they passed you on the street. I signed up for pottery classes, joined a walking group. I made friends, real friends, people who didn't need anything from me except company and laughter. I didn't hear from Ethan or Madison again, not after the house was gone, not after the business folded, not after they were forced to figure out life without my help. The silence suited me. One afternoon, I sat on my little porch with a cup of coffee, scrolling through photos on my phone. Old photos of Ethan as a kid. Birthdays, school plays, his graduation. I thought about deleting them, but I didn't. They were still memories. Still parts of my life, but they didn't hurt anymore. Because I finally understood something. I never needed their approval. I never needed their permission to matter. And I never needed to beg anyone to let me sit at a table that I paid for. Spent years being afraid of what would happen if I stood up for myself. Now I knew. What happens is, you get free. And I was. I was finally free.